Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
100 years, we've been invited to scream in terror and laugh with relief to the thrills and spills of funhouses of every size and description. But whether they use hand-painted cardboard cutouts or state-of-the-art technology like today's multi-million-dollar attractions, every funhouse is designed to play on the same basic human emotion. Fear.
People like to safely explore fear. They want to be scared to death, but they want to know at the very end of it they're going to come out of it okay. And you know that when you ride a ride at an amusement park, you're going to come out the other end and you're going to be fine. So why not push your fears like right to the limit?
Fear is such a visceral response. You know, you feel it in your body entirely. The hairs raise on the back of your neck. You know, your heart races. Fear is a way of feeling more alive than you do in everyday reality.
It's kind of like a survival journey. Images of death, despair, destruction, of fright are being thrown at you, but you survive it. It's a very positive experience in the end because you have escaped that terror.
But the funhouse's formula for success isn't only based on fear.
A funhouse that's one awful shock after another would be no fun at all. You have to have a bit of humor in it, which takes the edge off, you know, and makes you feel better for a while. Whereas if it were just one kind of sledgehammer blow after another, it would be an awful experience and no one would ever go back.
But every year, millions of people do go back to places like Universal Studios theme parks. Here, they can experience the excitement of multi-million-dollar attractions like Back to the Future, The Ride, Jurassic Park, The Ride, and Terminator 2, 3D.
Hey, Pocket Dad.
But few of these thrill-seeking visitors probably know that these big-budget, high-tech rides owe their success to a crude but effective amusement ride from the turn of the century. A Trip to the Moon, which debuted at the 1901 Pan American Expo and inspired Georges Méliès's classic silent film, used a simple rocking mechanism to convince riders that they had traveled through space and landed on the surface of the moon.
And the rocket would take off, and people would faint because they thought it was so real. And then you get out of the rocket ship and tour the moon with special moon guides, and you would get a souvenir piece of cheese and return to the Earth. That sounds very funny and ridiculous, but that's the beginning of it all. And it was so popular that they moved the whole thing to Coney Island.
And with that, a new form of entertainment was launched, the amusement park. And at the center of it all, the funhouse. Here, rides like the spinning barrel, the shifting staircase, and the human pool table helped to create a world which offered visitors a brief escape from the repressive values of Victorian society.
You'd slide down a chute, or you'd walk on a floor that would disappear out from under you, or you'd have a gust of air shooting up from below. And I think their appeal had to do with they're just being so different and so unexpected, so wild, things that you just don't experience in your everyday life.
In some of the old fun houses, they used to have cattle prods, and somebody used to come up and stick you with an electric cattle prod. And I'm saying in the 1990s, having somebody come up with an electric cattle prod and stick it on your hip or your rear end or whatever, I think you're looking at a lawsuit is what you're looking at.
A lot of fun houses ended in a sort of almost auditorium where people then could sit and watch everyone else have to go through the same ordeal that they themselves had just gone through. It's the same appeal that Candid Camera and America's Funniest Home Videos. You know, people caught in the act of being themselves.
One of the last of these early fun houses still operating today can be found at Bushkill Amusement Park in Easton, Pennsylvania. Here, kids can climb and romp on the same rides that once thrilled their great-grandparents.
This is the fun house at Bushkill Park, one of the oldest of our buildings, in fact, the oldest attraction at Bushkill Park that's still running. Welcome. Let's go inside and see what kind of fun we have. This is the Barrel of Fun. There aren't many of these left. Nowhere that I know about. Somebody could write in and tell us where they have another Barrel of Fun. This is the way to the Hall of Mirrors upstairs. Safe trip. Well, I thought these were fakes, but I'll leave a note for tomorrow. Here in the Hall of Mirrors, we offer our guests and ourselves a kind of different picture of ourselves. The Funhouse has a great press pass. I missed.
By the 1920s, the number of amusement parks and fun houses in the U.S. soared to record numbers.
It was a crazy era. It was the roaring 20s, and those people would try anything. And fun houses were certainly a part of it.
To meet the demands of a daredevil public, a new element was added to the mix: darkness.
When you're in your house at night and it's completely dark, even though it's a familiar environment, just the darkness makes it unfamiliar. And the Funhouse just sort of capitalizes on that uneasiness of just complete ignorance, not knowing where you're going is the most frightening of all.
For nearly 100 years, Kennywood Amusement Park outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, has been a favorite summertime escape for millions of local residents. One of less than 100 originally built in the United States, today, Kennywood's Noah's Ark is the last surviving walk-through funhouse of its kind in the entire country. Although it still uses the original motor and pulley system to rock the hull, several of the early effects have been updated in order to appeal to a more sophisticated audience.
Noah is my name.
This is the captain. First, it's Noah. This is also part of the old technology. Simple animation, animals that move back and forth. Noah turning the wheel back and forth.
Noah is my name.
This is one of the great old tricks. They're called the shaker boards. They don't really shake as much as they go back and forth. But a Noah's Ark wouldn't be Noah's Ark without the shaker boards.
The Ark's original revolving barrel has been transformed into a low-tech, high-seas optical illusion.
We're not moving, but our eyes and our brain and everything inside says we are moving, because obviously this big room can't move. Well, it can in a walk-through dark ride.
Among other recent additions, the Elevator of Doom, which drops passengers down to the Perils Room. Here, visitors must endure a terrifying ordeal on their way to the walkthrough's wet and wild finale.
Here we are at the flooding chamber. This is the final scene, and it's the most exciting. And it turned out to be the most expensive. You can see some of the things starting to happen. We've got water gushing. We've got walls caving in. There's 10,000 gallons of water on the roof. Oh my God, I hope I can get out of here.
I think it's very important that Kennywood was able to preserve Noah's Ark because it's such a historic ride. Rather than tear it down, they improved it a little bit, and it's, you know, now it's intact for many future generations.
Noah is my name.
Next, we take a terrifying ride on the dark side and drop in on some of today's scariest and most thrilling funhouse attractions. Ever since man cowered in his cave, night has symbolized danger, a mysterious void where evil lurks. By playing on this hardwired fear of the dark and combining frightening images with what was then state-of-the-art technology, the funhouse of the 20s and 30s created a new sensation, the dark ride.
I think dark rides serve as a lampoon of death. It's a cartoon of all our worst fears. It's a way of dealing with it by sort of cheapening the subject into just entertainment shock value. So it's a way of not really dealing with the reality of death.
For most of its 90 years, Pennsylvania's Bushkill Park has operated the Haunted Pretzel. To ride this working antique
Is it scary?
is to take a journey through the history of dark rides.
The Haunted Pretzel makes great use of darkness. You just do not know where you're going. You're just absolutely turning this way and that. Disorientation is never better achieved than in the Haunted Pretzel.
I'm Neil Fainall at Bushkill Park. Right now I'm in the Haunted Pretzel at Bushkill Park, one of the oldest haunted dark rides of its kind in the country. I'd like to show you what makes it so spooky. As you can see, there's nothing really in here. The darkness creates its own walls. And as you ride through this ride, each bend that you go around, you feel something's going to jump out and scare you. You don't know what's going to happen next. Is it going to be a bat that falls out of the ceiling? Or is it going to be a monster? This is one of the original pretzel display pieces. This is Spider-Woman, and she has spun a web back here, and this unsuspecting child is about to be entrapped in the web, and Spider-Woman would then be eating her. People love to see things like this. They don't want to be the child that's going to be eaten by the Spider-Woman, but people enjoyed those sights 60, 70 years ago, just like they do today. This is a girl that has just been decapitated with the sword here, and right now they're getting ready to scalp her. You can see the vase of blood, which is right here, and they save that for whatever they do with it. This is Dead Dan, and even though he's a dead guy in a casket, I find him to be kind of funny because as the car's going by, Dan sits up. Good night, Dan.
One of the first rides visitors to Pittsburgh's Kennywood Amusement Park encounter is the Old Mill. Built in 1901, this water-powered variation of the traditional dark ride, better known as the Tunnel of Love, still offers young sweethearts a chance to steal a first kiss.
Kennywood and amusement parks in general are places where I think you do some of the first wandering away from your parents and hanging out with your friends. And so you're creating your own new world, and rides like this help do it. People know that you're going to go into the dark, and certainly at various points in there, no one can see what you're doing. And so it's a place for cuddling and to sort of make out canoodle. You're a little bit nervous about getting on the old mill with the girl the first time because you might end up getting slapped, but you also might end up getting, you know, a snuggle.
In addition to smooching and canoodling, the slower nature of these water-powered rides gave designers the chance to create more elaborate and detailed scenes. Displays told simple stories while borrowing themes and images from cheapy horror movies of the time.
The dark ride and the film have a very intimate, intertwined relationship. And so when you see really schlock-filled movies from the 50s, dark rides really were operating at the same level of sophistication. Very kitschy, and really older dark rides today, the value for them is as nostalgic pieces and as historical pieces.
And as the popular culture of America changed, so did the funhouse. Kennywood's Le Cachot, that's French for the dungeon, uses horror film imagery and blacklight technology to create a spooky day-glow tribute to the psychedelic 60s.
Uh-oh, there goes a buzzard by, and now, the bats, for people who hate bats, they're over our head right now. Ah, bats! A little devil, a little creepy devil looking at you. Oh, it's the chain lady there. Oh, laser light, oh, the light. There we go. We're banging out only one more set of doors. Ah, we're back in civilization again.
By the 1970s, the golden age of funhouses had long ago ended. Liability lawsuits, skyrocketing insurance costs, and an increasingly sophisticated public conspired to all but wipe out this unique form of entertainment. Hundreds of funhouses throughout the country were torn down or converted into other types of attractions, but a handful managed to buck the trend. The Haunted House at Knobel's Amusement Resort in Ellisburg, Pennsylvania, is considered by many to be the best of the traditional dark rides still operating today.
In Knobel's Haunted House, everything's going on. It's total confusion and chaos the whole time you're in there. Things are popping out at you from both sides of the little car.
Oh, that scared me.
It's just a visual overload.
Knobel's Haunted House, in my opinion, is the absolute best dark ride in America.
Almost made my hair messed up.
It uses lots of darkness very effectively. And it's filled with gimmicks and gizmos at every turn. It's so close and intimate, you really feel like your personal space is invaded.
Ironically, the extinction of traditional funhouses marked a new beginning for dark rides, and for the 185-acre virtual funhouse in Anaheim, California, known as Disneyland.
Disney might not have had the original idea for the funhouse, but he took it to a whole different level.
Next, we explore the dark side of the happiest place on Earth and get an eye-popping look at the funhouse of the future. Behind the walls of this haunted hotel at Disney MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida, await the horrific pleasures of the Tower of Terror. Once guests check into this haunted attraction, they board an elevator from another dimension and are welcomed by the hotel's ghostly inhabitants.
It's eerie, it's otherworldly. You have the fear that you might be sucked into this hotel and never be able to escape. it just tickles your terror bone.
The rickety old service elevator lifts riders 13 unlucky stories to the hotel's roof, where they will meet their ghastly fate.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would step on an elevator they knew was going to crash. But I think people always have wondered what would happen if the elevator they were riding in suddenly broke and they went flying down to the basement. Now you can feel what that would feel like.
The Tower of Terror is one of the latest of many Disney Funhouse-style attractions that date back to the opening of Disneyland on July 17, 1955.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
To me, the Funhouse is perfect for Walt Disney. He's the master of dark. You go through all these movies, and Snow White, Pinocchio, it almost always dealt with the dark. So it was perfect for him.
Well, have a look around.
Disney was the first creator of dark rides, which really created a film experience. They went from being sort of plotless and meandering spectacles to almost a coherent storyline. So in a sense, they became as powerful and as sophisticated as film technology and special effects had become.
To achieve this new level of sophistication, Disneyland engineers created a new form of technology, audio animatronics, lifelike robots that added a touch of realism to the Funhouse experience.
Now, this is a Caribbean town at the period, and you get down here and look to that little ring, you get the view that the audience gets.
One of the most complex of these early dark rides is Pirates of the Caribbean, the last attraction to be personally supervised by Walt Disney.
Now here, you see the pirates are dunking the mayor into the well, trying to force him to reveal the hiding places of the town treasure.
Yo-ho, yo-ho, a pirate's life for me.
This modern rendition of the water ride uses 119 animated figures in more than a dozen separate scenes.
Bright your colors, you brazen witch. No need to expose your superstructure.
Although Disneyland has recently updated some of the scenes, the ride itself has changed very little since it opened in 1967.
Yo-ho, yo-ho, a pirate's life for me.
It was the birth of what is now called in the industry the themed experience. Sights and sounds totally choreographed and everything in sync to create an experience for the rider.
There were huge props, huge scenery pieces, and there was a lot of humor, a lot of really good kind of visual humor in it, and it just told the story on a level nobody had ever seen before. It was really revolutionary for its time, and it's still an incredibly popular ride because it was so well thought out that it still works.
Disney's Haunted Mansion, which opened in 1969 at Disneyland, and was later reproduced at Walt Disney World in Orlando, boasts an incredible 999 separate special effects and illusions.
Some of them were effects that have been around for a long time. Some of them were state-of-the-art at that time, but it combined, again, the storyline, the music, the whole picture, the whole experience was very sophisticated and just wowed everybody.
But wowing everybody was no easy task. More than 12 years in the making, the Haunted Mansion underwent countless design and construction revisions before it finally opened its creaking doors to the public.
Is this haunted room actually stretching?
Disney originally thought that he would have the Haunted Mansion be a walkthrough. But here at Disneyland, where we have over 2,000 people coming through here in a day, he conjured up something even more diabolical. It's called a doom buggy. We're now next to what we call a doom buggy. This is a Walt Disney Imagineering invention called the Omnimover. There are 131 doom buggies moving along on this track endlessly from early morning to late at night. That gets us about 2,400 people an hour on this ride.
Rivers and witches from regions
We're about to have a seance here with Madame Leota, a disembodied head sitting inside a crystal ball. One of the things that makes this continually popular is people ride it over and over again trying to figure it out. And we try to avoid giving away our illusions, but I will tell you we've been asked more than one time about how this is done, and it's not a hologram.
Give us a hint by ringing a bell.
Here we are in the ballroom, and it looks like we're just in time for a party. Now we're going to reveal one of our most outstanding effects here, how we do the mystic ghosts that you see. You know how we do it? We use real ghosts. Here we are at my favorite part. Oh, excuse me there. You know, one of the things that's really important in a ride like the Haunted Mansion is humor. And what ride really lets you take one of the residents home?
Another Funhouse-style ride recently added to Disneyland's Toontown is Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. This zany ride puts a modern twist on the classic Funhouse pretzel ride.
Danger! Danger! Warning!
This ride grew out of really existing technologies. So even though we wanted to do something new and cutting edge, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So this really is a hybrid of existing technologies in the park. We physically went to one of our existing dark rides, which is a ride vehicle that runs along on a bus bar, and we looked at the teacups, which is just on a little post and spins around. So we took a teacup one night off the teacup ride, put it on Pinocchio, and went through the ride to see how these two technologies would work together. And it was a marriage made in heaven. Or actually made in Disneyland.
Hey, it's Joe here inside Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin, and we just broke into a china shop that's run by a bull. A bull in a china shop. You get it? That's the kind of craziness that's happening here. Now, the last place you want to be if you're attuned is in a power plant. So, of course, where are we going to throw you? Inside this wild power plant. And you'll notice all this crazy neon and stuff. This is the first time we've ever tried to mix incandescent light with black light. We're using the oldest gag in the book. You can see his insides as he gets electrocuted. But now you, the guest, get blown up. We're getting blown up and heading into my favorite scene here, Cartoon Limbo. Now, how many times have you seen a cartoon character get hit on the head and you see the birdies fly over him? There you go. But just when you think there's no getting out, Roger Rabbit, the very star of our movie, saves the day. There's Roger. Thank you, Roger. We love you, Roger. And we're home safe. My goodness. I can feel my heart pounding, but we made it through alive.
Another recent Disneyland addition is the Indiana Jones Adventure. This attraction, based on the hit films, is the culmination of nearly 100 years of Funhouse ride design and technology.
The Indiana Jones Adventure is an amazing attempt to take you through almost an entire feature film. It's what theme park designers are always trying to get at. You get to be on the adventure Jeep, you get to be with Indiana Jones, you get to go through all these adventures, and I think they really pulled it off pretty well.
Pulling off this multi-million-dollar funhouse took more than 7 years. Over 168,000 square feet of hand-carved surfaces and 55 hand-painted murals were created and then aged. Disney Imagineers also created hundreds of separate special effects and an entirely new computer-controlled ride system.
Unlike the movies, we have to make these effects play real for our guests every 18 seconds. And I think that we've really very successfully created an environment where everything looks like it's falling apart. There's explosions, there's beams coming out of the eye, there's things popping out at you from all over the place.
In terms of Disneyland, it's the most thrilling ride in the park, that's for sure. But also for those ride aficionados that have been going to parks and parks and parks, there isn't anything ever that's been created that's like this. This is not a roller coaster. It's not a simulated movie. It's a very unique experience.
Into the happiest place on earth, silent movie producer Carl Laemmle founded the Universal Motion Picture Manufacturing Company. Today, it is known simply as Universal Studios Hollywood. Taking a cue from Disney's success, Universal began to create theme parks built around funhouse rides based on their hit films. In the early 1990s, they combined cutting-edge, motion-based simulator technology with classic funhouse elements to create the breakthrough attraction, Back to the Future, the ride.
Not only did you sit in a vehicle that resembled what was in the movie, but the actual movie itself was extremely realistic. It was sort of the first attraction to come along to put everything really together and bring it home that you were really experiencing Back to the Future.
Directed by special effects wizard Douglas Trumbull, considered by many the father of motion simulator technology, Back to the Future the ride set the hallmark for the motion-based attractions that followed. Trumbull combined 70mm film imagery and computer-controlled hydraulics to create an entirely new funhouse experience.
The accuracy of delivery is very important. The image has to be very sharp and very close to the kind of visual field that we see in reality. And by wrapping the image all around you, you can really immerse people in that sort of sensory experience. You must also deliver a sound field that wraps around you as well and corresponds to that image. The physical motion must also be perfectly synchronized with what you see, or it can be nauseating, annoying. It can be a very unpleasant experience if it's not done really well.
After Back to the Future, Trumbull formed a creative partnership with the IMAX Corporation. They used a miniature funhouse set, stop-motion animation, and puppets to create Funhouse Express.
Where's my ride operator?
The story behind this 4-minute attraction centers on Jimmy, the funhouse ride operator, and his mean boss.
Enjoy yourself! Hey, what are you doing?
Their conflict plunges riders into a wild and wacky world.
A good motion-based simulation experience is one where a great storyteller has a great story to tell that takes you from A to B to C. You're placed in a wonderful immersive environment. You go on an impossible journey and you survive. A bad motion-based simulation experience is one where there is the idea that the motion-based experience is so wonderful, all we need to do is that. Nobody cares about the technology. What people care about is having a great experience they can't have anywhere else.
And action camera.
Building on the success of Funhouse Express, the IMAX production team took to the streets of San Francisco for their next project.
Uh-oh.
Crescendo. This zany, surprise-filled, motion-based ride follows the antics of a maniac mobile pianist.
We wanted to try to create a contemporary ride simulation experience that would really be like the best of the Marx Brothers or Laurel and Hardy or Charlie Chaplin. And we tried to get that kind of delightful, fun, off-the-wall, crazy, physical stunt gag kind of feeling in a live-action ride. And we also wanted to experiment with our development of this device called a motion microphone, which is a set of accelerometers that actually record the physical motion that the camera experiences so that we can play those recordings into the hydraulic system and exactly feel what was felt during the photography of those scenes. We're entering an area where our dreams are becoming reality. At least the dreams of an imaginative filmmaker can become almost a reality experience for millions of other people.
Next, we explore new worlds as Steven Spielberg's cinematic visions come to life in big-budget dark rides. And we'll discover what the future holds for the funhouse of tomorrow. Rides. In addition to Back to the Future, Steven Spielberg is responsible for two of Universal Studios' most popular attractions, both of which are updated versions of traditional funhouse rides. E.T.'s Adventure takes advantage of the best elements of a classic dark ride and the worldwide popularity of the film's lovable alien.
One of the important things about it is that it has a character that everybody loves and everybody knows, and that gets you right into the storyline immediately. And then once you get on the ride, you experience all the thrill and fun that E.T. and his friends went through when he tried to get back to his planet. But the other thing about it is it goes beyond the film. It goes to the planet E.T. came from, and it explores that world, which is a very different kind of place.
Another one of Spielberg's blockbuster films to get the funhouse treatment at Universal Studios Hollywood is Jurassic Park: The Ride. A direct descendant of the old-fashioned water-powered dark rides. This $100 million prehistoric extravaganza taps into basic fears essential to creating a successful funhouse experience.
People have both a fear and a fascination with dinosaurs, especially children, and the Jurassic Park ride takes all of that and the knowledge of the movie that was very successful and combines them into experience that is actually in your face.
This is not about riding in a boat and watching dinosaurs over in the distance. This is about experiencing the story of Jurassic Park firsthand.
Park security system is shut down. Do you understand?
This is something that happens to you. The dinosaurs are almost within your grasp as you go through the attraction and impact you in pretty visceral and exciting ways.
Creating this 6-acre, 8-story, in-your-face experience took more than 5 years. Ride designers had to literally invent a new form of animatronics, as well as a special water-immersible skin covering in order to bring the dinosaurs to life.
This is really what virtual reality is all about. It's not about something you put on your head and see a condensed image on 3 sides of you. This really is a chance to, three-dimensionally live the movie.
Visitors to Universal Studios Florida theme park are enjoying a different kind of 3-dimensional experience. Funhouses have delighted, shocked, and thrilled millions. But what does the future hold for this unsinkable and unique form of entertainment? Will the dark rides of today continue to thrill the generations of tomorrow?
I think as time goes by, people get more sophisticated, so they demand more when they go out. They want the parks and these movies to be on the cutting edge. They want something that they can't get at home, and I think the parks are ready to deliver that.
In the near future is going to be more like a continual development of the kind of things we see today. But the farther future will include forms of entertainment which are directly implanted into your brain. And we'll be able to do things directly into our nervous system.
We're always thinking of ways to scare you and thrill you, and as long as people need to be scared and frightened but walk away with a smile on their face, there will be funhouses.
I think the future of funhouses is combining old-fashioned jump-out-at-you technology with interesting new technology. In the same way that movies continue to reinvent themselves, the Funhouse will continue to reinvent itself.
Unfortunately, the old-style fun houses, little by little, are disappearing. But I do think some brilliant young amusement park executives are just going to realize, something really exciting would be, to have a ride in the dark with things jumping out at you.
Dark rides have existed since the beginning of time in one form or another, and they will continue to exist because there's a little bit of a dark rider in all of us. And as long as there are people, there will always be dark rides.